Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to take those really complex sources you send us and break them down into the essentials. Today, we're diving into something deeply personal. It's a listener's family story covering generations, dreams, big questions about life, death, consequences. Our goal is to unpack these fascinating family histories. We'll look into some, well, unexplained events and explore the surprising karmic reasons behind how life unfolds sometimes. We're drawing all this from a very detailed personal account, a kind of case study shared by one of you, focusing on a Thai Buddhist view of karma. So get ready. This story has, well, pretty much everything. Ancient scripts on a skull, amazing healings, the real cost of choices, and those, unseen connections between past and present. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the listener's father. A farmer, smoked heavily, was a monk for a bit. Later on, he had a stroke, got really sick, constant dizziness. Our listener tried everything, hospitals, traditional medicine, but he just didn't get better. And here's where it gets really interesting. After his cremation, something incredible was found. Calm script, like ancient writing, on his skull. And it was completely untouched by the fire. How is that even possible?
Well, it's fascinating. That comm script, it was definitely from a powerful Saiwet practice. That's a term for magical or ritual traditions in Southeast Asia. Specifically, it was talking on folk, a head blessing ritual, usually for invulnerability, for protection.
Ah, protection. So not related to his illness then.
No, not directly to the stroke or dizziness, but it really speaks to how powerful people believe these ancient practices are. The idea is they can leave a lasting imprint, sometimes even spiritually, maybe even across lifetimes. Seeing it survive cremation is, well, it's considered proof of its potency.
Okay, so if the script wasn't about the illness, what did cause the stroke, the dizziness? What's
Yeah.
the karmic angle there?
Right. If we look at the bigger karmic picture, the source of that suffering goes back to a past life. He was apparently a prison guard. And his job involved using this awful torture device, a temple squeezer, they called it, designed to crush the head to get confessions.
Oh, that's grim.
It is. And even though it was his duty, part of his job, the act of repeatedly causing that intense pain, specifically to the head, generated this very specific negative karma. And that resulted in his own head condition, the stroke, the dizziness in this current life.
Wow. So even doing your job, if it involves harming others, it creates a debt. It makes you think, doesn't it, about the karmic side of our own work?
Absolutely. It raises that exact question. How do our professions, even the ones we feel obligated to do, affect our karmic balance? The intention behind it matters too, of course. It's not just the act, but the mind involved.
Russ.
Was there indifference? Or worse, that deepens the imprint.
Okay, that's a lot to take in. But you mentioned his passing, despite all this, was peaceful. What happened right at the end, and where did he end up?
Yes, apparently his pre-death vision, the Kotanimit, was very bright, very clear. At that crucial moment, he managed to focus his mind. He thought of the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, that core refuge. And that pure state of mind, helped along by monks chanting and his daughter guiding him, it essentially created a channel for his good karma to surface right at the moment of death. So this allowed him to be reborn in Tavatimsa heaven. That's the third celestial realm in Buddhist cosmology. Reborn as a handsome deity, actually.
The deity. So he received the merits his family sent.
Yes, he received all the merits dedicated to him, which boosted his, let's say, divine status and wealth there. But it's important to remember, even heavenly realms aren't permanent. Deities can eventually fall if their good karma runs out. It's all impermanent.
Yeah. So what's the takeaway here for us? It really shows the power of your mindset at death, right? How focus can change things. But also how past actions, even from a job, can circle back with such precision.
Yeah.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Have you ever really considered the karmic side of your job, your daily interactions? What's the intention behind them? All right, let's shift now to the listener's mother. Her story involves a really severe illness. After her 10th child, she became paralyzed. Couldn't walk, fingers and toes curled up painfully. And she was healed by a Saiwet doctor, using a pretty dramatic method. A red-hot iron dipped in oil, stepped on, then applied to her body for a week. That sounds intense.
It does sound intense. And her illness, according to this understanding, came from a mix of past life karmas. One part was from living in an agricultural setting where she used to tie the legs of animals, like pigs or chickens, maybe for sale or work, restricting their movement, causing distress.
Okay.
And the other part. As a young person, she apparently used to make fun of people who had physical deformities, like curled hands or feet. Just youthful thoughtlessness, perhaps, but insensitive.
So those two things combined.
Exactly. The physical restriction karma and the karma from ridiculing that specific kind of suffering curled limbs manifested together as her paralysis and the curling of her own fingers and toes.
And the dramatic healing. The hot iron.
The explanation given is that her suffering was mainly, basically leftover karma or minor karma. The main force of it was almost exhausted. So at that point, almost any treatment might have seemed to work because the karmic energy causing the problem was naturally fading away. The hot iron treatment was perhaps more symbolic, or maybe just the thing she encountered when the time was right.
Wow. Okay, that precision again. Mocking curled hands leads to curled hands. Tying legs leads to paralysis. It really hammers home how specific karma can be. Now, what about the listener's third older brother? His story is just tragic. Born without an anus, died within a day, crying in pain. That's heartbreaking.
It truly is, and the explanation points to a direct and very severe karmic consequence from a past life. Apparently, as a reckless teenager in that life, he used to, well, playfully block the anuses of dogs and cats, a cruel kind of joke.
Oh, no.
Yes, causing them extreme distress when they tried to relieve themselves. That specific act, combined with the general karma of killing animals for food, which tends to shorten one's lifespan, karmically resulted in his very short life and that specific agonizing birth defect. And this kind of severe specific karma can apparently repeat over lifetimes until the debt is fully paid.
And here's where it gets even more complex, maybe even chilling. His mother, the listener's mother we just talked about, she was connected to that specific karma.
Yes, exactly. In that same past life where the brother was harming the animals, the mother, she was his friend. She didn't physically do it, but she watched, and she laughed. She found it amusing when the animals were suffering trying to go to the bathroom.
She thought it was funny.
Apparently so. That shared amusement, that active enjoyment in their suffering, even without doing the act herself, created a very strong karmic link between them. And that link is why they were reborn as mother and son in this life. She had to witness the direct, agonizing consequence of the suffering she once found entertaining.
That's profound. It means our reactions, just laughing along or approving, can tie us karmically to things.
It strongly suggests that. It's not just our actions, but our participation. Even passive approval or finding amusement in harm that weaves these karmic threads. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How often might we passively approve of something harmful, maybe gossip or just not speaking up, without realizing the connections we might be creating for ourselves down the line?
Let's move to another story now, the listener's husband. It's a particularly sad one, really marked by alcohol. Started drinking very young, 14. Apparently his adoptive father introduced him to it, and he drank heavily his whole life. It led to abuse in the relationship and eventually an early death. Really tragic. Okay, let's unpack this. About a month before he died, his deceased adoptive father appeared in a dream, told him to go make merit, but he didn't. Thought he had more time. Could he actually have lived longer if he'd listened?
Yes, according to this framework, that dream was absolutely genuine, a real warning. If he had taken that advice seriously, made merit, changed his ways even slightly, there's a strong likelihood he could have extended his life. It was a window of opportunity.
And the adoptive father appearing. How does this happen?
What's interesting is the adoptive father himself, despite being a social drinker, had apparently done some significant traditional merits in his life, like maybe ordaining as a monk for a period. These good deeds were strong enough to temporarily outweigh his drinking karma, allowing him to be reborn as a fumthewa, sort of an earthbound deity or spirit. And from that state, he was able to visit his son in a dream to offer that crucial advice. It shows how complex these karmic balances can be, even after death.
Okay. Then after the husband died, their young son, only 7, saw him standing at the window for 7 days straight. And then a medium got involved, claimed she could summon his spirit. Said he'd been cursed or poisoned, threw things at a house, even predicted the new baby would be a girl, which was right, but was real rare.
Right, let's break that down. The son seeing his father at the window for 7 days. That part was very likely real. The spirit often lingers for a short period, sort of disoriented, before being drawn to its karmic destination. 7 days is a common time frame mentioned in these traditions.
Okay, so the sighting was real. What about the medium?
The medium's claims about the Benkot curse, or black magic, throwing objects that sounds like fabrication. Performance, really. Often done to impress grieving families, gain their trust, maybe get paid.
And predicting the baby's gender.
Pure coincidence. Lucky guess. Not evidence of genuine spiritual contact in that context. This whole situation really highlights a challenge, doesn't it? How do you tell what's real spiritual phenomenon from manipulation, especially when you're grieving and vulnerable? Discernment is key.
Absolutely. So, given the lifelong heavy drinking, the abuse, where did the husband end up after those 7 days?
The answer is stark. He went straight to the fifth great hell realm, suffering immensely. The description is graphic, being force-fed boiling black acid or molten copper by hell guardians, enduring unimaginable torment.
That's terrifying. Can he receive the merit his family sends him now?
Not yet. Not for an incredibly long time. All the merit they dedicate, it essentially waits for him. It accumulates in a place called Yamlok, a kind of lower hell or holding realm. He has to endure the primary suffering in the great hell first. Then, after what's described as an almost inconceivable period, the figure given is 6 trillion human years, he might eventually reach Yamlok, where he can finally begin to access that waiting merit.
6 trillion years. It's hard to even grasp. That is a truly powerful warning about alcohol's impact, isn't it?
It's incredibly severe. What this highlights is that alcohol, while maybe legal or socially accepted, is seen as profoundly violating the law of karma. Why? Because it directly affects the mind. It clouds judgment, fuels negative thoughts, leads to harmful words and actions. It causes immense suffering, both for the drinker and for those around them, like the family in this case.
So the Buddha warned against it for this reason.
Exactly. Seeing this cycle, this immense suffering it generates, the Buddha compassionately advised against it. It creates a heavy karmic debt with consequences that stretch far beyond this life, potentially leading to these incredibly long periods in lower realms.
We usually think about alcohol in terms of health or maybe legal trouble. But this perspective, the unseen karmic cost, potentially lasting trillions of years. Have you ever considered that aspect? It really adds a whole other layer to the conversation. Okay, let's move to the listener's fourth older sister. She also faced some really tough things. Blinded by a cat when she was only 9. Then later, at 32, robbed of a lot of money, nearly 100,000 baht. These seem like very harsh events.
They do seem harsh, and again, the explanations are rooted in past life actions showing that direct karmic link. Her blindness, for instance. In a past life, she was apparently the main wife of a man who was destined to have mistresses. It was part of his path, perhaps. And the cat that blinded her in this life. In that past life, the cat was the husband's young, beautiful mistress.
The cat was the mistress.
Yes. And the sister, in that past life, blinded by rage and jealousy, took the sharp tip of an umbrella and stabbed the mistress in the eye, blinding her. So that intense, vengeful act directly led to her own blindness in this life when she encountered that same consciousness, that same rival, reborn as the cat. The karma brought them together for the consequence to manifest.
Wow. That's incredibly specific retribution. And the robbery. Losing money but getting half back.
That also follows a precise karmic pattern. In another past life, this sister was an employee who stole money from her boss, but later she felt guilty about it, so she secretly returned about half of the money she'd stolen. So that exact pattern theft, followed by a partial return driven by guilt, created the karma for the robbery in this life. She lost money, mirroring her theft, but got half back, mirroring her partial restitution.
And getting hit by the gun during the robbery.
That's described as like interest on the karmic debt, an added painful element because the original act caused harm and distress. It shows how karma isn't always just a simple tit for tat. It can accrue consequences.
Okay. Now, what about something our listener did herself? She mentioned, out of sheer frustration with her husband's drinking and abuse, she once mixed her urine into his liquor bottle. She feels terrible about it. Is that a heavy karma she needs to worry about?
Right. This act definitely came from a place of anger, extreme frustration, maybe even desperation. But the key here is the intention. It wasn't born from deep-seated malice or a wish to cause permanent harm or death. It was more an act of lashing out from love and pain, trying to stop the drinking perhaps, however misguidedly. Because the core intent wasn't purely malicious in that deep sense, the karmic consequence is considered relatively minor.
Minor? Like what?
Perhaps experiencing some minor annoyances, small pranks, or being teased in the future. Nothing comparable to the major karmas we've discussed. The advice would be to acknowledge it, understand why she did it, maybe feel remorse, but then let it go. Focus on making positive merit now, praying to clear away even minor negative echoes like that. It really highlights that difference between major and minor karma and how much intent weighs in the balance.
That's actually quite reassuring. The intent behind the action matters hugely. Okay, let's end on a much brighter note. The listener mentioned the incredible support from her husband's adoptive brother after the husband died. He helped raise the kids, paid for education, really stepped up even when his own wife wasn't happy about it. Where did that kindness come from?
Ah, yes. This is a beautiful example of positive karma bearing fruit. Apparently, both the listener and her children had built up good karma in past lives, specifically through the merit you gain by supporting your relatives, helping family members in need.
So past good deeds came back.
Exactly. That old merit they had accumulated drew the adoptive brother into their lives at the exact time they needed help the most. He became the channel for that past good karma to manifest. And by helping them, he himself was creating new merit, continuing the positive cycle. It's a lovely illustration of how kindness sown in the past can return to support us, often from people or places we least expect.
What an incredible journey through these stories. So intricate, sometimes really tough to hear, but also filled with these profound karmic explanations. We've really seen how actions, big and small, intended or maybe not fully intended, seem to echo across lifetimes with such amazing, sometimes scary precision. Our choices really do seem to shape our future.
Indeed. From the prison guard's duty having consequences to the friend just laughing along, it all points to this idea that the law of karma is incredibly precise. It applies to everyone, whether we believe it or understand it or not. And it's not really about judgment from some external force. It's presented more as a natural law, like gravity, understanding cause and effect, seeing that deep interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah, and we learn so much, the sheer power of having a clear mind right at the very end, at death, how that can literally change your destination. And the stark warning about alcohol, not just the immediate harm, but those potential long-term spiritual consequences, but also the hopeful part, how past kindness, supporting family, can genuinely come back around and help you through difficult times, sometimes through unexpected people.
Right. If we connect all this to the bigger picture, it really emphasizes living mindfully, doesn't it? It highlights the huge responsibility we carry for our thoughts, our words, our actions, not just for this life, but for the ripples they create going forward. Every single moment, every choice is like a seed we're planting for our future.
So here's something to maybe chew on as you go about your day. A final thought. If every single action, even every thought and word, carries this kind of karmic weight like these stories suggest, what's one small intentional shift you could make, starting right now, today? One small thing in how you think or speak or act to consciously try and build a better future, not just for yourself, but maybe for those around you too. What ripple do you want to start? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into these powerful, unseen forces and patterns. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep exploring.